1 p.m. Sunday, another game that has a lot of playoff implications for both sides, but in different conferences. NFC Lions, AFC Jets. I love this time of year when every game, I'm on the 538 playoff predictor so if this team wins, this team loses, this jumps it from 25% to a 72% chance to make the playoffs. And that's kind of what this game is. If the Lions are able to win this game, they are in the driver's seat because Washington and New York are going to combust. Seattle's already combusted. All of a sudden, Lions just put themselves in the driver's seat. They need to win this game. And on the flip side, the AFC East has the Bills and the Dolphins ahead of them, and the Jets have no shot at winning that division. They need to win this game to get a solid spot in the wild card.
It is really cool that in week 15, we're talking about the Lions and the Jets, two franchises that have not been good recently, right? We don't have to sugarcoat it.
That's putting it lightly. That's putting it lightly.
Like the last decade plus, these teams have not been good. And now they're both young. They're both kind of fun.
Yes.
Like there's some excitement about both of these teams. And they're legitimately in striking range right now, 15 weeks into the year. Which is really cool. 6-7 and 7-6, these two teams, and they're both good ATS, because if you and I were talking before the year, we wouldn't have said that in week 15, this game is going to mean anything other than draft position, right?
Yep.
They would have been the opposite, but they're 9-4 against the spread are the Lions, and the Jets are 8-5 against the spread. And man, this Jets team has a really good defense, but this Lions team, everything has been trending positively for them for a long ways now. Like you look at last week, they held the Vikings running backs to just 22 rushing yards. And then they didn't give up a sack. So their defensive line holds the opposite run game. And then their offensive line is one of the best in the league. Mm-hmm. And what's so cool, they win the game on a play where their right tackle is in motion and he picks up the third down to ice it for them. They had a 41-yard fake punt run. They've won 5 of their last 6 games. Their only loss during that stretch was a close loss on Thanksgiving to the Bills. Last week, even like things that were a bummer for them, the rookie wide receiver, Williams, who was hurt and not playing for a lot of the year, he comes back now, and in his second week, the first catch he ever has is a 41-yard touchdown, which is really cool. They've scored 25 or more points 5 straight games. That's the first time they've done that since 1954. They've scored 31 or more in 4 of their last 5. And it's not fluky. They lead the league in red zone conversion rate. They are second in goal to go conversion rate. And they've given up only 123 sacks yards this year. That's second lowest in the league. Over the last, I can keep going. Over the last 6 games, 20.3 points per game allowed. There's just a lot of positive metrics right now about this Lions team.
Yeah.
All of that being said, we can come back to one idea about Jared Goff outdoors and in cold weather, and he's not nearly been quite as good playing against teams when he has to go on the road. And this could be the situation here where it's cold, maybe a little bit windy, and is he going to be the same guy operating that offense?
It'd be really interesting to see. Yeah, like you said, the Lions during this winning streak have been absolutely phenomenal. They've only turned the ball over 3 times. 2 of those came in their one loss since they took down Green Bay on November 6th. They've only lost 1 game, and it was to the Bills where they threw 2 interceptions, and it doesn't surprise you that that's the game they lost. But the interesting thing, not only is it outdoors with Jared Goff, the Lions offense, one of the best in the league, but they've been beating up on really bad defenses. Mm-hmm. And when they do play good defenses, they struggle a little bit. They go from expected points added per play from .056, which is 8th best in the NFL, against defenses that are top 10 in the EPA. They're negative .1375, which is last in the NFL. So they struggle against good defenses. I will say there's an outlier game that's really pulling that all down, and it's their 29-0 Patriots. And in that game, to defend the Lions just a little bit, they were not going to win that game or anything. They were severely banged up that game where they were missing St. Brown, Swift, a lot of their skill position players. And then throughout the game, I think they had 4 defensive backs
have to leave the game because of injury while the game was going on. They just did not have much of a team there. In horse racing, sometimes we just like put a line right through a bad race where a horse like stumbles at the start and then gets in trouble. That's kind of what I did with that game for them, because it's like so bad. But then on the Jets side, like if you look at some of their losses, they could have beat the Vikings. They could have won their last 2 games. They outgained the Bills. They had more first downs, more total yards. They were even in yards, but they had 2 turnovers and they had 7 penalties. 3 of them were automatic first downs for the Bills. And they won the time of possession by almost like 9 minutes in that game. But they lost 2 games to the Patriots where Zach Wilson was starting, that if Mike White was starting, I think they probably win both of those games. And that's what's fun about both of these teams have done what you see young teams sort of do too. Like they've lost some games that they probably should have won. Detroit earlier in the year and the Jets a little lately. But this is a really fun game. One of the most intriguing games of the weekend. You know, I think I might lean a little to the over in this game, because I think the Lions defense has been better, but they're still not
the Lions defense.
Yeah, they're 30th in the red zone with a 65% touchdown rate allowed. They're, at the goal line, they allow 80%. So I think both teams should be able to score. I do agree with you. I don't think the Lions will be lighting it up, but their offense is still good enough that I think they'll be able to hit a couple strikes here. I would lean over in this game because, man, I have a lot of any lean to the side, either way side. I can completely be sold, positives or negatives for either of these teams at a short number. So I think my play would probably be over slightly.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting during those games they were playing some of the top defenses in the league, the Lions. They were without Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they also, of course, were without Jameson Williams. And all of a sudden you add in 2 of the best playmakers, or you assume Williams will become one of the best playmakers, but you have these 2 amazing playmakers now in the fold. You're going out against the Jets, 6th in EP. Yeah, like you said, you could tell me Jets, and I'd be like, all right, I can see that argument. You could tell me Lions. All right, I can see that argument. I think the over is a fantastic play. If I'm betting this game, this might be my my love for moneyline underdogs, but I love the Lions here at plus 105. Like,
I've become a fan of their team, and I think sometimes it's the Hard Knocks thing too, because I watched Hard Knocks before at the beginning of the year, and then I thought I didn't think necessarily they would be a playoff team, but I did think they'd be like that feisty, take the next step team.
Yes, same.
So early in the year, I was a little disappointed when they were losing some of those games where they were up and they kept spitting it out. And I was like, same old Lions. But they really have progressed. And you know what? A lot of credit to Dan Campbell, because when they were 1-4 or 5, a lot of locker room could just say screw it and they just give up, right? But he kept out going, and these guys believe in him. They believe what he's selling them, and that's half the battle.
Imagine how different this line is if the Lions, so early on in the season, you said whatever they started. Yeah, they started terribly. But of those, I think 4 or 5 of those games, they had the ball last in a 1-possession game and just could not finish it. And you just think, maybe, what if they win 2 of those? What if they even win 1 of those? And just how different Vegas looks at this game, how different kind of the narrative is in this game.
Minnesota game when they were up double digits twice in that game in week 3, and they ended up losing. Week 1, they were never going to win that game, but they came back late and made it close against Philly. Against Seattle, they lost by a field goal when they gave up 48 points to Seattle. They ended up losing a game to Miami in the same situation where they were up, controlled a lot of that game, and had chances. There was one play that stood out where it was like 3rd and 11 that Miami picked up a huge first down. Miami was incredible on 3rd down that game. If they don't get one of those 3rd downs, the Lions win. And those are 3 games that flip for them. And we're talking about them being their division leader. I truly think we saw them play Minnesota. I think they are a better team, and they would be a much more fun team to watch in a playoff game match up with another good team than Minnesota.
Don't get me started on the Vikings, the biggest frauds in the NFL that people still want to be in the comments section of DRF Sportsbook Instagram telling me how the Vikings are actually good and each week they lose worse and worse. But